Greetings fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to another blood-splattered vlog. Alright, so this week's movie is a big one, and I'm not just saying that because of its subject matter. It puts two Japanese directors, which I absolutely adore, together into one glorious weirdness of a film. Because not only is this film co-directed by the director of Evangelion, yes, that Evangelion, it's also co-directed by the director of the 90s Gamera Trilogy, a trilogy I absolutely adore despite its stupid cliffhanger ending. Like seriously, to this day I want them to do a fourth movie just so I know what happens next. Come on Japan, you know you want to do it, the Gamera 90s quadrilogy, just think about it. Anyway, this week's film is Shin Godzilla, otherwise known as Godzilla Resurgence. And the reason it's also known as Godzilla Resurgence is because that was the original international title for the film until Funimation got the rights to it, and when it released it in America decided to call it Shin Godzilla, its actual Japanese title. Which reportedly the original studio was not happy with this release decision, but honestly I actually think it was a good idea for the simple reason that Godzilla Resurgence is a very misleading title. Because while it is the resurgence of Godzilla in Japanese cinema, as in the original Godzilla, the one that's done in the suit and shit, as opposed to the 2014 American Godzilla, which was fucking awesome by the way, it's not actually a resurgence of Godzilla in the film itself. As far as this film is concerned, this is the first time Godzilla has attacked Japan ever. So it's more of a reboot than a sequel. It actually doesn't address any of the previous films. In fact, the Japanese military has not seen action since World War II. And no one in this film reacts as if this happened before. So I can only assume, in this film's canon, only this film is canon and none of the others, including the original one. So because of that, I'm really glad when they released it here, they didn't call it Godzilla Resurgence. Like I said, it's just super misleading to me. Like, Shin Godzilla just makes way more sense. But hoo boy, I can't wait to see the upcoming sequel, Knee Godzilla. Joking aside though, to get to my opinion on this movie, I actually really liked this movie, though it was not at all the movie I was expecting. Based on the marketing campaign for this movie, I expected this movie to be a return of the scary Godzilla from the original Godzilla. And while there is a little bit of that in this movie, absolutely, what this movie is more so is a very critical look at the Japanese government's response to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Which, for those of you who don't know, was an incident in Japan following a tsunami in which a nuclear plant just started spilling all this nuclear waste into the ocean. And because of this disaster, the ocean around Japan, as well as the whole of the Pacific Ocean, now has trace amounts of radiation in it. So it was not only a disaster that affected Japan itself, it also affected the world at large. And it's very obvious when you watch this movie that the filmmakers were not too impressed with the way the Japanese government responded to the disaster. So while we do get a whole lot of Godzilla rampaging through Tokyo, what we get more so of is actually a look at the Japanese chain of command. So like Godzilla will hit landfall, and then we'll get the initial response of the people on the ground going, oh shit, this giant monster just fucking hit shore. And then a general will get that call and be like, oh shit, this giant monster's here, should we attack? And then that general's call will go to the actual cabinet of the Japanese parliament, which will be all like, oh shit, what do we do? Hey, prime minister, what do we do? And then the prime minister will be sitting there going like, oh shit, this never happened before. I don't know what we do. And then through this chain of command, we witness layers of incompetence one after another, just making the situation way worse than it needs to be. Though to be fair to everyone in this movie, it's very obvious that the situation is so fucking crazy and drastic that incompetence is to be expected in response. Because I honestly think no government would be prepared to deal with a giant monster rampaging through one of its major cities. Especially one that's nuclear powered and near impenetrable. So bullets don't hurt it, missiles don't hurt it, cannons don't hurt it, so what hurt it? Which is also what a majority of the running time of the movie is spent on, trying to figure out a way to stop Godzilla. And honestly, that's about all I can talk about before I get to the spoilers of the movie, so I guess I'll just say that I really liked this movie, though if you're going in and expecting like Godzilla rampaging for 90 minutes, this movie is not that movie. This movie is a nice slice of Japanese social commentary that just so happens to have Godzilla also rampaging throughout it. And we also get to see a version of Godzilla that we've never seen before. Like, actually, the 2014 American Godzilla is way more like the original Godzilla than this one. This Godzilla is completely different in many ways that I'll go into when we get to the spoilers. Though I must say, I completely love the design of Godzilla in this movie. He just looks angry and pissed off, and he's glowing red from all the radiation inside. So he looks kind of similar to the Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Destroya, where he's like about to go nuclear at any second. It's a really good look, and I really liked it. Now, there are other aspects of the Godzilla Godzilla that I thought were a little goofy, but like I said, I'll go into that when we get to the spoilers. The acting in this movie is spectacular all around. Like, every performance, with the exception of some of the quote-unquote American characters, were really well done. Which is to be expected. It's a Japanese movie, so obviously all the American characters are going to be caricatures of us. Everyone in this movie who represents the American government and its interest in Godzilla is completely, like, just cocky assholes. Which, to be fair, pretty much describes this country, so you know what? I can't complain. Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, longtime Godzilla fans will probably be satisfied with the Godzilla portions of this movie, but probably dissatisfied with the rest of the movie. Though if you're a fan of Japanese cinema in general, you'll probably won't mind the fact that this isn't 100% a full-bore Godzilla movie, and will probably enjoy the social commentary. Unfortunately, Shin Godzilla is not currently available. We're still waiting on Funimation to release the Blu-ray or DVD of it. So if you want to see this movie currently, you're gonna have to either import it or find another way to watch it. And with that all said, my fellow Gorehounds, let us move on to the spoilers. So once this movie opens up, it just keeps on going. This movie does not slow down for anything. And the first thing we see is this Japanese tunnel just completely like collapsing in on itself and all this water rushing in. And that's when it becomes clear that some sort of giant creature is emerging from the Tokyo Bay. But it doesn't quite look like Godzilla at first. It looks like this giant fish monster with this giant tentacle tail, with these big goofy bug eyes. And it's done completely CG because it's very obvious that this monster's design could not have been done with a suit. Especially since this monster keeps evolving as it moves, so it starts looking more and more like Godzilla as it goes on. And while this is all happening, we're quick cutting to all these people within the Japanese government responding to the situation as it occurs. So we have like these funny exchanges like, oh shit, there's reports that there's a giant monster in the bay. Oh, no, there's not a giant monster in the bay. Giant monsters don't exist. Oh shit, there's a giant monster in the bay. Just cutting between all these reactions as they happen. And it's very obvious right away that the Japanese government is not at all prepared for a disaster of this epic proportion. Like, before they knew it was a giant monster, they still were not ready for whatever the fuck is happening. And sure enough, this giant proto-Godzilla fish monster just starts squirming through the whole of Tokyo, just smashing buildings and just destroying everything. And for the first time since, like, the original Godzilla movie, we're actually seeing people in buildings as they collapse on themselves. And you don't realize how often you don't see that in Godzilla movies until someone does it. But it was actually a really great filmmaking choice to do that, because now when the Prime Minister is faced with the choice of, hey, do we do military action on this monster despite civilians being on the ground? So his dilemma feels really real, and you feel it emotionally when he has to make the decision because you've seen the civilians, you've watched as Godzilla has rampaged on them. So you know any missiles flying at this creature could potentially hit an innocent victim. And there was no way they had enough time in order to actually evacuate all of Tokyo before this happened. And a detail that I really fucking like is that the Japanese military in this movie has not been used since World War II. So initially, the response to Godzilla is mainly firefighters and police officers within Tokyo, and it's mainly the mayoral response. The government response is they're literally sitting there twiddling their thumbs going like, oh shit, should we call the military? But the military's green, they've never seen action before, will that work? And I kind of love that this was a movie that actually acknowledged that the Japanese military has not seen engagement before. So as a result, the Japanese military itself and its chain of command is slightly incompetent because it's never seen action, it's wet behind the ears. So everyone in this movie is just scrambling to figure out what to do while Tokyo is just being fucking demolished. And all the while, they're watching the monster through, like, news helicopters and shit as it rampages, and it's very obvious that it's evolving as it moves. It started off very fish-like with these giant gills, but as it moves on, it starts getting more upright and more like a giant dinosaur. But still with the bug fish eyes, which just make it really hard to take seriously, to be honest. I just don't know, like, me and everyone that I was watching the movie with just started busting out laughing every time it would cut to its face, because it just had this complete, like, derp face, like, I'm Godzilla, I destroy buildings, bloop. Which is too bad, because despite those giant bug eyes, everything about this sequence works, even the shoddy CGI. Which, yeah, it would have been nice had they found a way to do the evolution process practically. I just think it would have looked way better, but I was okay with this sequence being in CG despite that. Even if the CG in no way compares to the beautiful CG in Godzilla 2014. So anyway, for no apparent reason, Godzilla retreats back into the ocean, which gives the Japanese government some brief reprieve to figure out what the fuck is going on. And this is when the Fukushima disaster parallels become really fucking obvious. Because we find out about this one old scientist who completely disappeared but left behind all this research that predicted this would happen. Because he was looking into the nuclear effects on sea wildlife due to the fact that the Japanese and the American governments were dumping nuclear waste into the ocean. If I got that detail wrong, feel free to correct me in the comment section below, because this movie is really fast-paced and it's easy to miss details. So they put together this ragtag group of fringe scientists, just complete hackers and just like teachers who've been disbarred and shit like that, and put them together because they're able to think outside the box. And basically put all of the research that the other fringe scientists did, the one that predicted this would happen, in front of them, and basically it's just like, figure out what the fuck this is and how do we deal with it. And this ragtag group of fringe scientists is actually some of my favorite characters in the movie. Especially this old guy they put in charge of this long piece of paper that has this DNA sequence on it. And he's trying to make heads or tails of what it is, of what the DNA sequence actually says about the creature. But then he realizes, oh shit, he's been looking at it all wrong. It's not supposed to be flat, it's supposed to be 3D. So he folds it up like an origami piece and realizes, oh shit, this is what the creature is. This is how we figure out how to defeat it. So I really liked that character, and I really liked the origami twist. Anyway, Godzilla rampages a second time, and this time he's in his full final suit form. At least final form for the movie, because they reveal that he might actually have a fifth form which involves wings. Which for a second made me wonder, oh shit, is this Godzilla gonna turn into King Ghidorah? Because that would have been amazing. But no, that doesn't happen. But what does happen is the Japanese military engages in a full-on assault on Godzilla this time. We're talking tanks, we're talking attack helicopters, we're talking fighter jets, and they even get aid from American bombers, which just completely start wrecking Godzilla's shit. But this is the point where Godzilla starts doing things that are completely new to Godzilla as far as I'm aware. First, he does a very Godzilla thing and breathes atomic fire all over Japan and just leaves it in fucking flames. But the way he breathes fire in this movie is his jaw literally unhinges and opens up into this just giant maw. And that takes out all the Japanese ground troops, but in order to take out the Japanese air troops, like the fighter planes and the helicopters and the American bombers, lasers start bursting out of his spine. So you got Godzilla's spine right here and all its spikes, and lasers just start bursting out of it from every direction, and takes out every fucking plane in the air. At this point, the Japanese government's like, oh shit, we gotta vacate Tokyo, everything's gonna be fucked. So they try to evacuate, but by trying to evacuate, the entirety of the Japanese cabinet ends up getting incinerated. But yeah, I think at this point I'm gonna stop with the spoilers, because the ending of this movie is actually pretty crazy and shocking, and I want you all to see it for yourself. So needless to say, my fellow gorehounds, I recommend this movie, but with a lot of caveats. You can't go into this movie expecting it to be the Godzilla movie to end all Godzilla movies. In all honesty, I actually feel like the Godzilla 2014 delivered on that way more, despite everyone's complaints about it focusing way too much on the humans. Which, by the way, if that was your problem with Godzilla 2014, that is a way bigger problem in this movie than that movie. Ooh boy, is that a way bigger problem here. And again, I say that as someone who liked this movie. So yeah, check out Shin Godzilla when you get a chance. I have no idea when Funimation is going to release the Blu-ray, but I really hope it's soon. And as per usual, my fellow gorehounds, like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to hit that notification button so that you're notified of my videos upload immediately. And as always, my fellow gorehounds, peace out, and I'll catch y'all later.